Hey,
I don't know.
I think it's best to screw up as much as possible.
Okay, well, let's do it. Let's screw
I
up.
do. I think it's more entertaining
Let's create a clip.
computer watching. Woo, who's watching their computer now? It's the middle of the day. It's a beautiful day.
So half the working population. Good, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to our Emmy Contender series. My name is Yvonne Villareal, and I cover television. We're here today with that actor you recognize from just about everything, Mr. Steve Zahn. After all that.
We were just joking about it. You're going to screw it up. I wouldn't be able to do this.
Do you want to finish the rest?
He's here today to talk about his role in National Geographic's documentary series, Valley of the Boom, which chronicled the early years of the internet. He played Michael Fane. It's not spelled Fane, but that's how you say it.
Yeah.
What does that say?
The con man
The
slash
con man
founder.
slash founder of a streaming video startup called Pixelon, which many people will remember. It's a pleasure to have you here.
You did really well.
That's your line.
Yeah, you
Sent from
did.
my iPhone.
You did.
It says sent from my iPhone, and now there's
I
nothing.
love that.
Now we have to make up everything.
A+. I really like that.
Thank you. A+ on the painting.
I did that myself.
That is the most outstanding artwork I think
How
I've
do you
ever.
interpret it?
It's going to take me a while, but
Because there's some darkness.
I think you have plowed fields over there.
That's because you live on a farm.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's upside down, but
It's nice, right?
I think that's interesting. I walked in, it was the first thing I noticed was like, wow. Anyway, and this too.
Yeah,
it's great.
thank you. We try. We got vases, we got flowers, and it's fine.
There's empty spaces. Oh, there's quarters in them.
Don't mock our set decor. Thanks so much for joining us.
Sure, thank you.
So, I mean, what drew you to this character?
Well, that's,
He's quite the guy.
yeah, I mean, it truly reading this was, it's a gem. It's one of those moments as an actor that you take a breath and go, oh my gosh, I have you get really excited at the idea of playing this part. And then that excitement becomes terrifying when you realize, oh, I actually have to do this in front of people, and I have to make this work. Because he's a very broad character. He's twice as big as I am, with this very interesting hair. With no sideburns, which I thought was really interesting, which made it look really weird. So, Michael Fane, who's a couple names, but was in Virginia. He leaves. And he goes out west, and he just happens to get to Silicon Valley during the explosion of the internet and when all these companies were taking off. He was wanted by the FBI, and he just totally reinvented himself. He's a brilliant guy, assertive, very intelligent, and was able to read people and work his way from literally living out of his car to running a company that was worth billions of dollars. That's insane. And I don't think you could do that now because we have the internet.
Yeah.
So the irony is the thing that he helped develop is the thing that actually, brought him down. It's not the Wild West anymore.
Well, like, what were you going off of? Did you just have the first script?
I had 3 scripts, and I had worked for a long time, and my wife is a writer, and our deal is, I worked for a while, and then I came home, I'm like, you're up,
Your turn, yeah.
And with the idea that, hey, you can't go to work unless it's really good. And I was home for like 3 weeks, and I kind of walked into her office with this script and was like, and she's like, you've got to be kidding me. You've been gone for a year. And I went back to the kitchen, and then she came back in. She's brilliant. And she came back in the kitchen like 45 minutes later. It takes me like 3 hours. Takes her like 20. And she came in, and she put it down, and she made a Coke. It was really quiet. You could hear every bit of the Coke and the ice and everything. It was one of those moments. And then right before she left, she was like, well, you have to do this.
You
And that
jerk.
was it. Yeah. But it was like, yeah, what am I going to do? Like, I have to do this. It's crazy.
Because was there a moment in any of those 3 scripts where you're like, this guy is like, because like the part where he's performing.
That was right at the beginning. That was the first episode. I'm like, oh, this guy's in the Easter pageant at a church.
Yes.
He just pulled his teeth out. Now he's dancing. There's a dance. There's a, and that's what I loved about the show. It chronicles this time. It's a microhistory basically that focuses on like 3 different companies.
Yeah.
And how do you tell that, in an interesting way that's entertaining?
Well, it is like the way the storytelling, where it's a documentary / scripted series. The way they wove that together was very
Fascinating.
interesting.
And I thought, wow, this is either, how is this going to work? And I kept asking Matthew Carnahan, who's brilliant, and really knew what he wanted, and was able to convey to us, like, hey, this is the tone of this. And yet we were kind of blind. Like, I didn't work with, Bradley and
You were all
Lamorne.
separate. Yeah.
They were on different days, and so I didn't have that kind of like on-set feeling each other to understand the tone of it. So I was constantly asking Matthew, like, is this working? Is this like what I'm doing matching? Does it matter? He's like, no, not really.
Yeah.
He was really kind of, he really let us invent, and it truly was one of my favorite jobs. I couldn't wait to go to work. It was that fulfilling. It was really a blast.
He can merit
Fun.
his own like TV series, this character, because it's such a bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, I think he works well because, in contradiction to the other stories, the Netscape story, I think it works well
Yeah.
because of that too, in kind of contradiction and just this totally different approach to business or success.
Right.
I mean, he was a preacher, my guy. He literally had church service at his company where people felt like they had to go, otherwise they
Right.
were employees of the company, and yet he didn't see it like that. It's a fascinating character.
What was your prep work? Because I tried like Googling this guy, looking for videos. There's
Yeah,
not
good
a
luck.
lot out there.
No.
So what was your prep work like?
Well, they gave me an interview that he did with Chris Cuomo in the 90s, in the late 90s. And it was one of those, Cuomo's like really young, and he's still young.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
still looks good. But it was one of those kind of weird, like, where they had those 15-minute slots of like kind of 60 minutes-y, kind of, Dateline tonight, and there was an interview with David Kim Stanley, Michael Fain, and that was enough. I was blown away by that, by the way. I thought that I would see this kind of boisterous, like really bigger than life kind of guy, and what I saw in this interview was like this very soft-spoken, very, very, Southern, very intelligent, but, and I was fascinated with that. Like, this is the guy? And that's all I kind of needed, and I didn't want to go too much further with I didn't have to imitate him. I wasn't playing, Eisenhower,
Right.
or, Nixon. I was, a guy that we don't know. So I had some liberty there.
How do you think he'd fare as an actor? Because the way he was able to convince these people.
I don't know as an actor, but as a P.T. Barnum kind of salesman, old school, like oil salesman to people that were desperate to make money. I mean, think about it. There was a lot of money being thrown around. I mean,
But like, I couldn't convince like our producer to lend me $100. I don't think I could convince him. So
I could.
The fact that he was able to convince people, like, what do you think about that? What it says about the lengths
Well,
people go to con people and the people willing to be conned for money.
Well, yeah, the payoff was that.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even like, is this legit or not?
Yeah.
That's not even the first question.
No.
I mean, remember, you know, in the show they even say, like, do they even know what the internet? They don't even know what the internet is, let alone what we're trying to, you know,
Yeah.
what the pitch meeting was. So no one knew what was going on. All they knew was that it was big, and it was big enough so that in that moment, you know, my character is able to say, look, I'll work with you, but you can't have my social security number. You can't know where I come from. You can't ask any. But if you want to make some money, let's make some money. I mean, I'm sure that's today too.
Right.
I mean, money rules, doesn't it?
Money rules.
Capitalism run amok.
What do you remember about that era when internet was first coming up?
You know, it's weird because it's such a strange. There are some people that know exactly, you know, their first email. You know, do you remember your first like AOL? Like your.
No, I remember my
address?
first. I had a GeoCities page dedicated to
GeoCities.
InSync photos and InSync quizzes. Like I had
Yeah.
a page, which probably violated a lot of copyright laws, but yeah.
See, I'm still to this day, like, I'm not a social media guy or anything like that. So I just remember, like, I was shooting Crimson Tide. So that had to be 90, I don't know when it was. And my friend had a computer and I played Doom. And I was just blown away. I just couldn't believe it. I was up all night playing Doom. Now it's like watching, you know, like the original Land of the Lost.
Right,
Like,
right.
we watched this? Oh my, you know. And so I can't even remember.
Yeah.
But I find that fascinating. It's like I think arguably the internet is probably the most important invention
Yeah.
of all time. Over the plane, the train, the car, right?
It's
And
become
yet,
the
if
fabric
you
of our
ask
life,
my grandmother, if she was still around, said, hey, do you remember your first car? She'd be able to tell you.
Yeah.
It was a Sunday morning, and we were sitting there, and the car came around the corner, and we thought it was a monster, whatever. Right? They'd tell you the story.
You don't remember
one-
your first internet search.
No one
Yeah.
remembers like how this thing creeped into our lives. I think that's fascinating. It wasn't some, here it is.
Right.
It just kind of like bit by bit. And it was a game, and then it was something that made something easier. And like, try to think of the last time you went to the bank to get cash out.
Right. It's been a while.
I mean, think about that. I used to have to go to get cash out of the bank on a Friday before they closed when I lived in New York. Otherwise, I was eating ramen noodles all weekend. It's fascinating
Right.
how that has changed everything.
What do you think of it? Because like you said, you're not really on social media and stuff like that, but
Yeah, but it's a part of my life. I
Part
mean,
of-
I have a phone right here.
yeah.
And, you know, everything I do is like, you know, I was one of the last of the holdouts. I had a flip phone, a contractor phone, till like 2010. I mean, I was like one of those guys. And then finally, I just couldn't keep up
Right.
communicating with people. You know, so I had to get something that I go, okay.
Right.
I don't know. It's a fascinating time, and I think it's an interesting time in that we think we're so savvy, and yet it's really the fledgling stage of this thing. You know, what the internet is going to be in, let's say,
Right.
20 years. Today is going to be like fledgling. It's going to be dumb. It's going to be doom today stuff compared to what's
No,
coming.
it freaks me out thinking
Yeah,
about
but
it.
I think maybe for the better too. I mean, it's to hear the people that were in the show, in
Yeah.
the documentary side of this, to hear them talk about it is fascinating in these kind of Q&As we've had over the past year, and them talk about technology and how the things that we're freaked out about. There's some kids right now they're solving problems right now. The things that are going to amaze us in like 5 years, some kids like working on today.
It's
know?
just so fascinating because I'm sort of jealous I don't have that mind to even think. Like I'm not.
Yeah,
What it
no.
means to be a visionary like that.
Yeah,
it's-
that's truly. I mean, just even to get to the point where how does somebody think like that, let
Yeah.
alone do it?
Uh-huh.
It's like thinking about space and infinity, or I'm just good at like digging holes. I'm painting.
Painting. Did you paint this?
I did.
Yes.
And it's
Are
worth
you- are you-
so much?
Are you a screen addict though? Like,
No.
can you live without your phone?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Although, Wordscape, we've been playing Wordscape. I kind of got addicted to Wordscape, which I'm not. I'm not one of those guys. I'm like the Doom guy. Right. I'm like first person. All of a sudden, I got Wordscape, and I'm really into it.
Into it.
But no, I'm not. I don't sleep with the phone next to my bed. I don't. I'm not on Twitter and all that
Okay.
stuff.
I'm jealous. I want your life then. It's like I wish I knew how to.
It's weird now we have apps that regulate and show up.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. Like, whoa, Thursday, what was I doing? I was pinned under a large concrete object with my phone. Thank God I had my phone. But there are moments when the phone's great. Airport, my
Right,
God.
right.
Plane,
Right. Well, back to Michael.
better than that football game. Remember that one? You remember that? No, I'm so old. I'm like 51. Know the football game?
Girls didn't play it.
That's true. You guys didn't play that game. It was literally a guy, and he would just go, and these dots would come at you, and it'd go, deet, deet. And then you would go, deet, 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 and go between them, and then you'd get 10 yards. It's so mindless and stupid that it's hard to explain.
Mine is dots. Dots is like my stress reliever.
Dots?
You're just connecting dots. It's the weirdest. Like,
I don't even know what that is.
I know. I'll show you later.
There's an advertisement on this for Wordscapes, and it's like, put out fires in your house and fix the toaster. Have you seen that? Like, who plays this?
Whoever invented it is probably very rich.
No, that's a everybody thinks that.
Well,
You get on TV, you're rich.
yeah,
You must have loads of money.
loads of money.
It's like, yeah, you had tons.
What did you think about? I assume you had access to the letters that he wrote.
The ones I saw in the script,
Yeah.
yeah, basically.
What did you
I didn't
think
have like
about? The stuff that he would write.
it was beautiful. It was like, it was incredible. It was so pretentious, and he's a true narcissist. I mean, he is the epitome of somebody who has the inability to kind of get out of their own world.
Right.
You know, his lack of empathy and sympathy, and it was really fun to play, you know, but yeah, the things he did were, I mean, he threw a party. How many million was it? $6 million? Was
Yeah,
it
well,
$6
he
million
got
bucks?
the Who out of retirement.
Yeah, he had a party to celebrate, and then Mark Cuban's great. And the doc,
Yeah.
and he comes in and he goes, so they're like, we're gonna have the biggest party of all time. We're gonna have all these people there. Faith Hill, Leanne Rimes. Hell, let's get the Who.
Sugar
They're
Ray.
into, you know, everybody came and he threw this party. He got the Who out of retirement for this party. It was a private party to celebrate streaming live, which didn't work.
Works
And then they
out.
cut to Mark Cuban right away. He's like, the first thing you do, the only thing you do is don't throw a party. That's a flag right there.
Yeah.
And yeah, he threw a $6 million party to celebrate something that didn't work, but will eventually. I mean, there were people looking at the Jumbotron in New York waiting for this live.
Right.
Now we take it for granted, but then a live broadcast was like unheard of,
Yeah.
you know, in quality, and not just a little stamp in the corner.
Right.
Like,
He was like the original con man in this space because like now we're seeing all these stories about Elizabeth Holmes and stuff like that. And you try to wrap your minds around And it's kind of like,
Fascinating documentary. I just watched
Yeah.
that like 2 nights ago.
yeah. But the mindset that goes,
Yeah, it's not malicious in a weird way. It's like,
they
you know,
really believe it.
like he was he's a very religious guy. And so that was kind of his his cover. But he didn't think of it as a cover. And I remember talking to Matthew when we would do certain scenes. I go like, no, he's really moved by this. He really feels like he's, a preacher, that he can save your soul.
Right.
That's not a con. And I think that's the root of a really good con person, is that they really don't think they're conning you. They really think that they're, because a lot of smart people follow.
Right.
I mean, look at like people like, I don't know, Jim Jones. I mean, it's interesting to watch a documentary. There's another great documentary on that.
Really?
Yeah. But it's fascinating. Like really smart people, they just kind of follow in line, and it's insane. But this one had money. It's different,
Different.
right?
Yeah. Can we
It's
talk?
amazing what people will do for a little bit of money.
Can we
And
talk?
me. You seen some of my movies?
Stop.
No, I have a few.
Really?
You're like, why'd he do that? Money.
No.
Ding, ding, ding. No, I don't know. I had to buy a tractor. They're expensive. I can get a used one. Wow, used ones are good.
What did you think of the hair? What was the hair process like?
The hair was almost.
It's very ramen noodles, very like.
It's very
Justin
ramen noodles.
Timberlake,
I
early
forget who
days.
told me that once. I was like, it looks like you're wearing ramen noodles. Like that. I'm going to use that. It is. And I thought, wait, this is for real? We're going to put this on my head in this show. And then I saw a picture. I'm like, well, I guess it kind of looks
Yeah,
like
it kind
him.
of does. Yeah.
What I loved about it was we didn't, again, Matthew, at one point he said, look, we talked about prosthetics and putting you through a process in the
Right.
morning. And then that lasted about 10 minutes. And then we just thought,
Yeah.
let's just do a fat suit. And I loved that. It was very theatrical. I felt like I was in a play in high school, where it was really well made, but it was real simple. There wasn't any smoke and mirrors and,
Right.
and electronic.
Hours in the chair, yeah.
I did Planet of the Apes. I mean, I know motion capture.
Uh-huh.
And I walked around my hotel with weighted vests and stuff for a few days, and I just kind of created this walk and this guy, and it was frightening. It really scared me. It really did.
Well, I was going to ask you. You brought up Planet of the Apes, because you're trying to mimic an animal when you're doing that motion capture, and then here. You're not really trying to mimic the actual person, but to get into who he was. Which do you find more difficult, like playing?
They were both really difficult. I mean, and they both were very, but those are the most fulfilling. I mean, look, Planet of the Apes was, I came into something that was already a masterpiece,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there were people that were masters at it, and I had to just kind of dive in. The first day you have to be as good as you're going to be at the end of the season.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't have that time to, well, he'll figure it out and catch the ball in the second game. No, you got to catch the ball right away.
Right.
So those are really kind of, frightening moments as an actor. But they also kind of compel you, I think, to do good work and over-prepare and know that, I asked Matthew, I was like, well, how am I going to do this? I mean, what do you want me to do? He's like, you're going to have to dive in, man. And I kind of, that's what I thought you would do. That's why I hired you. And I said, okay. And the first scene I did was Marcus Aurelius coming out on stage. That was the
Amazing.
first one I shot.
It was amazing.
Yeah, but it truly, I couldn't sleep the night before. I was so afraid. Because even though it's film and everything, you're still doing it for an audience. You still have an audience. Even now, we have an audience. There's 5 people in here. I'm sorry, there's 500. This place is insane.
It's really big.
But like on a crew's watching and they're judging you by how you're performing. And you can't do the whole play. You're just doing a snippet of it. Just stay tuned in. It'll get better. I don't know. That never goes away as an actor. I mean, it really, which is kind of the beauty of it for me. It's like, in fact, it almost gets harder in a weird way. The more that's kind of people have an idea of who you are, and not to fall into the trap of I'm going to change it just to change it.
Is
You know what I
that
mean?
why? Is that why you live on a farm, like to sort of escape that? Like
No,
how
I
did
live on a
that?
farm because I love that world, but it doesn't. It really helps me, I think, stay in the same kind of frame of mind as I was like when I was young. I still go to work in the same way. And I think a little naivete is not a bad thing.
Right.
Like I kind of just keep it like that. Just a little dumb. Stay a little dumb.
All for it.
Then you have a little fear. There's nothing wrong with fear. Keeps the fear up.
Well, I mean, you have been in like everything, and a lot of it that I
wasn't
love.
in A Bridge Too Far. Saving Private Ryan. Everybody else was.
Everyone else.
Thanks, Tom.
What do you get recognized most often for?
It's probably That Thing You Do with Tom.
What was it like filming that?
It was magical. It was amazing. I had a guy on the plane coming here. He was like, I'm a professional musician. You guys really played, right? That was what he asked. I'm like, yeah, we really did. We had to. That was a great job. And it was a great job because it would be a great job today. But it was that much better because it came at that time in our lives too. All those guys, we're very close still. And we learned so much, and you do something like that, and then you go off and do other movies, and it can be a downer because you want them all to be like that. But it's good because then you know that everything can be that good. It can be.
Was that before or after You've Got Mail?
Before.
Before. Okay.
I don't know. A lot of those movies came at the same time.
Yeah.
But that was before You've Got Mail.
So you have to have a Tom Hanks story at this point.
Oh my God. I worked with Tom on That Thing You Do. You've Got Mail. From Earth to the Moon, HBO series. The great Buck Howard produced that. And yeah,
Do you send each other Christmas cards?
all the time.
Are you like?
Yes. No. No, I thought last time I ran into him was in New Orleans. They were down there for the World War II Museum, and I was shooting Treme,
Oh yeah.
and I saw those guys, but I haven't seen them in a while. But it would be, this business is great. If you walked in, it would be like we just pick up right where we left off. Someone like that as a young person, you're like, oh my God, I'm working with him in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But what I love about it, it's not like working in a bank where for the next 20 years, that person is always a step ahead of you, and it's like, yes, sir, Mr. Sir. That doesn't happen in our business. That person, that Mr. Sir guy, makes you feel like an equal. That's the beauty of art. I work with a talented 12-year-old. They're the same. Doesn't matter. We're just in the foxhole together. There's not seniority, and stuff doesn't. That's what I love about this business. Just a bunch of circus people.
Well, and Reality Bites is celebrating its 25th anniversary this
Big
year.
celebration.
And you're doing something at Tribeca?
Yeah, I think I have to go work. I'm doing a Helen Ball movie down in North Carolina, so I can't make that. But it would be appropriate because my character didn't talk much.
Yes.
So I really don't have much to say. Talk about being scared. I was too stupid to be scared. Ethan and I worked together in theater. Before that, we were really good friends. So I get in this movie. I'm like, dude, I don't know what's going on. What's happening? What's a mark? Like, no one teaches you that stuff. You just have to pick it up. Thank God I didn't talk much. I could just sit there and kind of observe.
What's a standout moment? Like, I still wish that, like, when I'm in a convenience store, that my Sharona will come out. And
I
hasn't
pulled my neck.
happened.
I was in like traction I went all out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of standout moments, but a lot of them have to do with kind of like hanging out. You know, staying at the Nico. Remember when the Hotel Nico
What's that?
on La Cienega and what's the mall over there? That big mall on La
Beverly
Cienega?
Center?
Yeah. What's that? It's on Beverly in La Cienega. And it was called a Nico. I don't know what it is now. I had my dog there. And we bought like RCA race car tracks. And Ethan and I did it all over my hotel room.
Really?
Yeah, and the maids hated us.
I thought there was going to be a lot more debauchery.
No, it was
No.
really stupid stuff.
stupid
We're really
stuff.
kind of nerdy guys. We did that.
Do you still stop when Lisa Loeb's Stay comes on the radio?
Of course, we were all in love with Lisa. She was, we were big fans of hers in New York. She'd play little coffee houses. We're like, Lisa, my God, she's brilliant.
When did you feel confident or comfortable referring to yourself as an actor?
Good. Well, early.
Early?
I was really, I was really proud of that. I mean, I remember how excited I was. You know, I dropped out of college, my first college, and I just knew this is what I wanted to do. And that's why college was a really good thing, that first place. And I remember when I got a job doing Biloxi Blues at this dinner theater in Minnesota, and I was so proud that I was being paid to pretend in front of people. I'm so proud of that. I'm an actor, and then you become a union actor, and you're like, that's a big step. You can't go do the community show.
Right.
I'm committing to being, is he doing the Macarena? Hey, Macarena. We're wrapping up, I think. So I'll keep it short.
You can't give our secrets
Dude.
away.
I didn't swear once, dick. He told me.
Yeah.
I didn't swear, did I?
No.
All right, cool. Well, I don't know what I was talking about, but
Okay, can you...
it's a very noble profession. I'm very proud to be an actor.
I want you to share a story from one of my favorite movies that you were in. Let's see if you can guess
Thank
what
God
it
it's
is first.
one I'm in. What?
Can you guess which one is my favorite? What do
Your
I look
favorite?
like? Yeah.
Sometimes I can tell. Are you
Yeah.
are you that young where you're gonna say like Daddy Daycare? Okay, good. You are though. Is it gonna be something crazy? I don't know, like Saving Silverman?
No.
Is
I'll just
is
say
it
it
a
so we don't
drama?
waste time.
Yeah. We're wrapping
Riding
up
in
here.
Cars with Boys.
Oh yeah, I love that movie. That was a that was wonderful. And I love
Right.
Penny to death. Oh my God, I have so many stories about Penny. We could go for 2 hours here.
Tell
and
me
Drew, I was really proud of that. That was to be honest with you, I was really bummed out when that came out at a really tough time.
Yeah.
And I remember doing press for that, like right after 9/11. It was just,
Yeah.
what are we doing? Why are we here? What are we
Yeah.
talking about?
What matters? Yeah.
It was just heartbreaking. And I never thought of that in the moment, like, oh, I want this movie to be big and this stupid thing happens.
Yeah.
Get in the way of my success. No,
Right.
but it really did bum me out a little bit later on when I look back. I had Joyride come out too, right at the same time, which was another really good movie, a John Dahl movie. But Riding in Cars with Boys was a big deal for me to get that part. And it was very difficult. Like there's, I had to age through it and go from, this kind of young, vibrant, good-looking guy to like just being like.
Totally. Yeah. And the
Drew
kid
was-
actors were so good. Were they like
Everybody was
brothers, I
great.
think, something?
The what?
The
Oh, the
kid playing
kids,
your
yeah,
son. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's a really good movie.
Penny was great.
What was it
We'd
like?
have like
her
colloquialisms every day on set. Like try to guess the origin of the colloquialism. It was great. My meeting with her, I met her in L.A. I said, "We're gonna have a baby. I can only come out for the day," and I flew out and I went to her house. It was very strange, and it was like, hey, she wants you to come to her bedroom. I'm like, all right. And she had like a Lakers jersey on. She was eating like bacon. And we sat and watched TV and ate bacon and talked about the movie. That's the way it should be, you know?
Uh-huh.
That's the way they all should be. I love that.
That's so cool.
Sitting in Lakers jerseys, eating bacon, talking
Penny
about
Marshall,
movies.
yeah.
Penny Marshall, brilliant. Loved her to death. Everybody's afraid of her. I loved her.
She ever yell at you?
No. She would shoot, she would do like 30 takes. I mean, notorious. This was with film. This wasn't digital. I mean, I was like, Penny, this is crazy. We did one scene where we shot one side, and we couldn't come back to the scene for like 2 weeks, and the leaves changed. This is the truth. And I'm like, why aren't we shooting? And there's all these guys in cherry pickers painting the leaves.
Painting the leaves, yeah.
The real leaves on the trees.
That's
And
cool.
she's like, you remember when did you smoke your cigarette after that one line? I'm like, Penny, that was 5 years ago. And you painted leaves out here. And you're asking me when I smoked a cigarette? I have no idea. Just cut around it.
I rewatched it. It's on Stars.
Oh,
so,
did-
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Well, also, before we wrap, how often are you getting recognized for your Friends episode? Now that the kids are
That's
rewatching
bizarre.
it.
That's a really weird, like, it was like 4 days of work, and I'm like, I still get people come up to me like, Sammy, right? Sammy?
I think
Sammy
so.
the ice skater?
It was on the other week.
So weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you realize how popular that show was. I mean,
Yeah.
if I get recognized like once a year,
Uh-huh.
oh my gosh.
So cool.
That was a fun part. That was a fun show. Those
Mm-hmm.
guys were great. And then I worked with Jen in Management, which is another great movie no one's ever seen. We had so much fun on that movie.
Well, we can all
Stephen
go back.
Belber, great script.
We're going to wrap things with a lightning round, if you don't mind.
All right.
Last show you binge watched. Stop looking at her.
The faces. Guys, come on. Don't just take this for granted. You just, I'm like, what? What's
We
the
thought you were going to bring flowers.
so great?
Last show you binge watched.
Huh?
Last show you binge watched.
Oh, Rachel Maddow. I don't know. I mean, I don't watch shows. I watch like the news.
Okay.
I watch like, Chris Matthews.
Okay. Okay. If
Oh,
you,
yeah.
what?
John Oliver.
John Oliver?
Love John
So
Oliver.
good.
So good.
If you could play any character on TV from the past, who would you want to play?
Oh, that's a good one. I can't lightning that. John Boy. I don't know. I would
You're
really
like-
great John Boy.
What was your first job in the industry, and what did you learn from it?
Theater or film?
Film.
Film was a movie called wait, look it up.
We're going to have to edit so much to make this look like a
no
lightning
kidding.
round.
I know. It was a movie called it was about abortion in the year like 2030 or something, and it was with like Jeff Daniels,
Wow.
and it was a very small movie. It was really, and it was very, it caused a lot of uproar.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Rain Without Thunder. Very good. It touched on like global warming. We all wore like, real light clothes and always had hats on because and this was like 90.
So ahead of its
91,
time,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was really interesting. It was kind of preachy, kind of like a documentary, but
Uh-huh.
but I just remember being thrilled. And I was doing the national tour of Bye Bye Birdie when I did that. I was like, I'm going to do a film. I'll have to be leaving the show for a little bit. So it was a big deal.
Well, very cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks. This was fun.
And thank you guys for watching. If you want to see more of our Emmy chats, head over to latimes.com. Thanks.